Igabo, welcome to Life with Mopeomo. Hi, everybody. So just to, clarify, this month is April, and April represents SAAM, an acronym for Sexual Assault Awareness Month. I really take this month into consideration as I am a thriver of CSA, an acronym for childhood sexual abuse, childhood sexual assault. This is not only a topic, but an experience that most of us experience, and it doesn't get talked about because of how it can be taboo to talk about within family structures, within social settings, professional settings. This is like a don't talk about it type conversation topic, which can be very demoralizing because of the fact that this is something that has happened to a child to then affect your adult life. This is a sensitive topic. It is, but this is a topic that needs to be talked about. I am not going to get into specifics because this is really just about my journey, and not just my journey, but also how I'm healing through this journey. The tools that I am choosing to use to be a better version of myself. This is going to be pretty short, but just wanted to just share that, So let's get started. Let's get into it. So yes, my name is Mopeomo Adesola. I am a first-generation American-British of Nigerian and Liberian background. And yeah, for me, I'm just really into my culture. I'm really into my culture. I'm really into embracing my indigeneity. I'm really into mental health and just making sure that not only am I paying attention to my mental health and being self-sufficient and self-conscious, but the society that I'm around, the environment that I'm around, we are collectively taking our mental health seriously, and making sure that we're living in alignment with our own truth, because there's multiple truths that exist, and yeah, my truth may not be your truth may not be my truth, but are we living in alignment within our purpose here on earth? So just a little bit about me. And also too, this is my first video on my channel, and for this month I will not be showing my face just because I'm experiencing certain things and y'all can hear my voice. Next month is May, which is Mental Health Awareness Month, and I will be showcasing my face, showcasing my image. But this month, because this is a sensitive month for me, per se, I would rather just record my voice, But also, too, this would also be on my website. So if you're interested, you can check out the description below and go on my website and subscribe through there and just, be in touch in that way as well. But, yes, so my journey as a thriver of CSA, unspoken generational trauma, for me, this has been a generational thing. What happened to me happened to my mom, happened to my grandmother, and I feel like when you discover how, you have experienced not only happened to you, but it's been generational. It happened to your mom, it happened to your aunt, whatever, your grandma, whatever. It's like, okay, so something that's happening that no one is talking about. That's why it's keep on happening. This needs to be a discussion. And not only a discussion, this is something that needs to be healed from. So, this is about doing the work, doing internal work, doing spiritual work, doing emotional, mental work in order to understand how to love yourself unconditionally, how to be vulnerable, how to express yourself in a way that makes sense for you, So for me, I am a beautiful non-binary trans man and, trans male, because we have to understand that gender and sex are not the same thing. They are separate. They are. And for me, being this amazing, beautiful, sexy, non-binary transsexual, I can truly say that me experiencing CSA has affected the way that I view my identity. It's taken me some time for me to like accept my identity, as a male, as a queer male, as a male that is in touch with his indigeneity, in a cultural aspect, in a spiritual aspect, in order for me to live the lifestyle that I choose to live, So, yeah, with that, what I really want to talk about is the effect on how this has on your nervous system. So for me personally, I experienced CSA from 7 years old to 12 years old, and when children experience sexual abuse, sexual assault within the first 7 years of their life, it affects them for the rest of their life. I'm going to say that again. When a child experiences CSA for the first 7 years of their life, it affects them for the rest of their life. Now, why? Well, because when we are born until the age of 7 years old, these are our developmental years. These are the years where we are developing into our identity, into our being. We're not finished because, our prefrontal cortex doesn't finish until we're 25, 26 years old. This is the organ that's in front of our brain, but when it comes to, being a child, we are developing into who we are. We're developing into our identity, understanding our placement in this world, our role. This is the time where we are trying to understand what our interests are, what our hobbies are, all these different things. It's within these ages. It is. I can truly say that for myself. I knew that I was queer, not just sexually, but socially, as a child, because it's just really hard for me that even like right now as an adult, it's just really hard for me to just socially be within one group setting. It's easy for me to be fluid and to fluctuate. That's just how I function as a being, and that's how I was as a child, So it's just really interesting how, based off of where you come from, who you are, like you can develop a queer identity beyond your sexuality. Like we have to understand this, queerness is not just about being gay, being a lesbian. It's about being trans, it's about understanding if you're cisgendered or not. It's about how you want to develop, like where you land within the spectrum of femininity and masculinity. I have always been a very androgynous being. I've always embodied that within me, internally and externally. This is just my being naturally, and I can truly say that as a child, I was feminized a lot because of how androgynous I was, how I looked, how I expressed myself, and my mom, I am not sure what exactly happened to my mom because me and my mom, we're not close. My mom's side of the family coming from Liberia, they immigrated to the Americas. I'm not really sure. Maybe in the 80s, they immigrated to the DMV, New Jersey, New York. I was born in New Jersey. And yeah, I was just really just around a lot of like hyper toxic femininity when it comes to my mom's side of the family. It's really interesting growing up in a hyper / toxic environment where you're being forced or being controlled to be a specific way, not really fully able to embrace who you really are, you know. And for me, you know, it was, for me, my experience of, yeah, I can truly say that with me experiencing CSA, my mom put me in specific situations in order for that to happen. You know, this is not about blaming anybody. This is not putting fault onto anybody. This is just the reality of it, of not really paying attention to what the fuck you're doing, you know, and thinking that you can trust people when you really can't, you know. But yeah, like, this has been something that I have dealt with my entire life. This has, you know, made me develop complex PTSD and bipolar 2 with some slight OCD symptoms. You know, I am a mentally disabled, I am a high functioning mentally disabled individual. And it's a lot, you know. But even that, you know, I feel like a lot of people do not understand the connection between having a mental disability or any type of disability from abuse. That is a thing. You can develop a disability, a disorder from chronic abuse. This is a thing because it's chronic. This is something that is happening constantly that you cannot control, specifically as a child, you know. And if you're not able to receive the type of treatment, resources, the type of love, nurture, care that you need, you're going to develop a very survival state of mind, state of nervous system, you know. So I can easily say that my nervous system is naturally dysregulated. It is, you know, with years of experience in CSA, years of experience in narcissistic parental abuse, and other factors that have affected me, you know. But when it comes to CSA, it plays a huge role in how you develop. This is affecting your hormones completely. And this is why, for me personally, it's important for me to differentiate the difference between sex and gender. They're not the same, they're separate. They're separate because your gender involves your gender expression, how you choose to express yourself, how you choose to socialize, how you choose to show up in the world. When it comes to your sex, you don't really choose that, it just happens. You know, your sex is either male, female, or intersex. And intersex people exist. We have to acknowledge that. The human body is complex, it is fluid, it is questionable. This is not questioning God. This is acknowledging God and their ways of creating creation. I see God as they, them. If that affects you, that's on you. This channel is about neutrality, FYI. But yes, you know, when it comes to sex and how your sex can be interrupted through CSA, I mean, this is going to this is going to have a huge role on how you function as you get older, as you grow. You know, I can truly say that for me, it stunted my growth in ways physically, but not mentally, not spiritually. I am a highly intellectual individual. You feel me? But at the same time, that doesn't get rid of me having a disability, you know? So it's really interesting when you experience CSA and you're really trying to function in this world. You're trying to feel safe in your body. This is something that wasn't granted. This is something that you have to develop. You have to develop safety in your body when you experience CSA. And especially when you didn't or don't have parents that are there for you, that are either denying your experience, probably weren't there to be there for you. You know, the ins and outs of that, you know. So this is going to place a huge role on how you view yourself and how you view the world. You know, we have to understand that children become adults. I'm going to say that again. we have to understand that children become adults. Whatever happens to you as a child, it will affect you as an adult. It will. That's just science. That's literally nature, But it's about, as you get older, how you tend to be there for yourself, The tools that you acquire to, potentially show up for yourself, So, as I've gotten older, I've realized that me tapping into my cultural background, it helps me a lot. It helps me ground myself, and even like with me understanding the rituals, the things that we do within my culture of being Nigerian, specifically Yoruba, like I can truly say that I'm a proud herbalist, I'm a proud healer, I'm a proud philosopher, I love educating myself about the human mind, body, and soul. I love educating myself about nature, about all these different things. It grounds me. It brings me back to myself. Because when you experience CSA, depending on how your soul is, I want to say how your soul is adapting to the environment after, or even through what you're experiencing, you are having an out-of-body experience. You are. So you need to find ways to ground yourself, because if you're not grounded, you're going to be lost. You're going to be spiritually, emotionally, mentally lost within yourself, So, yeah, like for me, like I can truly say that the tools that I have for myself, aromatherapy, music, one thing that grounds me is walking, going on long walks, feeling the earth, underneath my feet to remind myself that I'm a human being. I have feet. I can walk. I can use my limbs. My main symptom of having complex PTSD is dissociation. This is something that has affected me my entire life. It affects the relationships that I have, not only with myself, but with other people. Because dissociation, it can affect your memory. It can affect the way that you function on a regular basis. So yes, experiencing CSA, this is a topic that people don't want to talk about because no one wants to talk about how they function. No one cares about how other people function. Especially in the United States of America, our culture is based on being individuals, relying on self, making sure that we're good because we live in a very, hyperactive society, but that's the issue with us living in a hyperactive society. That comes with hyperactions, specific people feeling the need to gain control over other bodies. And for me, I don't understand how people feel the need to control children in that way. These are heinous actions. These are demonic actions, and when we think about it too, sometimes these people get praised. Why? Who the fuck knows why? But at the same time, it's about us seeking the justice that we need for ourselves. This is about breaking generational curses by speaking up. I would really recommend for anybody that's listening to this, please find support groups, seek therapy, specific types of therapy that resonate with you, because sometimes talking to other people can be a lot. Sometimes you don't want to talk. Sometimes you want to engage in an activity to really activate specific parts in your brain to really function in a different way. So I can truly say that finding the tools that you need for yourself as a victim, survivor, thriver of CSA is highly essential in order for you to be grounded and rooted in your own identity so that you can be in control of your body, mind, and soul. That can be anything that will make you feel better within yourself. There are so many tools out here, and tools are not just like tangible things. A tool can literally just be an outside, simply taking a shower, simply watching your favorite show, simply doing things that you wanted to do as a child. I know for me that my childhood was taken away from me. At 7 years old, my childhood was taken away, and I had a very, very depressed childhood. I wanted to do things, but my body was so tired, I would just sleep all the time. I had peers, I didn't have friends, so sometimes we would do things together, but at the same time, I didn't feel connected to them because I knew something wrong. I knew something wrong happened to me, and I wanted closure. I needed that closure, so I was very fixated on certain things. I was doing a lot of research as a child, like literally researching, studying so many different things so that I can understand what happened to me, what type of family structure I'm in, and like all these different things, so it's just really, really interesting how, depending on who you are and how you develop, the things that you do in order to protect yourself, in order to feel safe in your body, but yes, this is how you're able to break generational curses. This is how you're able to love yourself and feel safe within yourself. Having your essentials, having your tools, because like I said before, this is us being in control of our hormones, of our mindset, of our nervous system. Another thing that I really want to point out for me specifically, when this happened to me at 7 years old, it was really chronic. It was happening for a long period of time. And it happened so much that, I was developing seeds in my breast. My body was developing too quickly. It was developing rapidly. And my mom saw that. My mom was like, what's going on with my child's body? So my mom took me to a special doctor. And I will never, ever forget what this doctor said to me and my mom. This doctor said that my bones grew 3 years older than my age. I was 7 years old, and my body developed into a 10-year-old due to the amount of CSA that I was experiencing. Now, when a child hears that, they want answers. They want closure. They want to be in control of something so that they can feel safe and secure within their identity. Now, after that happened, nothing happened. There was no follow-up. I didn't go to therapy. Nothing happened as to why I developed complex PTSD and bipolar, specifically bipolar 2, because bipolar 1 and bipolar 2 are really distinctive. They're not really the same, But yes, unresolved closure develops into a disorder because that child is then questioning who they are, and they have to tug and pull for different answers and resources from other outlets that are not immediate to them. That is going to play a huge role, obviously, on how they develop. I mean, obviously, So, if you are aware of something, if you know of something, and you have the capacity and ability to provide safety, provide nourishment, provide care, do it. That's not something to fucking question. It's something to fucking do. Period. This is a topic that needs to be talked about, specifically in the Black community. The way that slavery has played a role in rape culture, the way that white supremacy, the patriarchal white supremacist world that we live in, it plays a role in rape culture. I mean, look at the fucking world right now. Look at the president that we have. Look at the the blasphemous that's happening in the world. Like, it's disgusting, it's weird, it's erratic. It is. But at the same time, as a race, as a human race, what exactly are we doing? Like, what are we doing to make each other feel safe, to feel heard, to feel seen? This isn't important. This is highly important. So yes, I kind of just want to end it here. This is just an introduction into this channel. This is my first video for SAAM, Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And like I said, take what resonates. Honestly, leave comments down below. I would love to hear, hey, like, what are your tools? What essentials, like, really, like, speak out for you? What helps you? Because that's what this is about. This is not about pretending to be something that you're not because you were forced to forget about what happened. Fuck that. Who are you? And who do you want to become for yourself? Because when you do experience CSA, this is, oh my gosh, the way that this destroys your soul and the relationship that you have with your spiritual belief, the relationship that you have with, like, your immediate family or what have you. It's a lot. It's a lot. So building community is extremely important so that you don't feel alone, because this is something that happens to a lot of different people. And if this is happening to a lot of different people, this is a conversation that needs to be talked about, not just behind closed doors, in person, out in the open. This should not be taboo anymore at all whatsoever. If we know that CSA is something that happens generationally, that's obviously a fucking problem. Like, we have to do something about that, So, yes, this will be uploaded on my website. And please let me know how you feel, This is for individuals to be vulnerable, to be open about their experience. Not rushing anybody, but truly taking your time when you're ready. Truly, So, yeah, I'm going to end it right here, but I'll shade to the Most High. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. Blessings.